Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, today I'm going to continue my discussion about Donald Trump's ban on Muslims entering this country. He has banned citizens from Syria, Somalia, Sudan, Iran, Iraq, Libya, and Yemen from entering the United States. All of those countries are predominantly Muslim countries. So, for all intents and purposes, this man has banned many Muslims from entering the United States. Now, he claims that this is designed to fight against terrorism, to keep the homeland safe from terrorism, but yet he did not include several countries that have ties to terrorism. He didn't include Saudi Arabia. As we know, most of the 9/11 hijackers come from Saudi Arabia. He didn't include Egypt. As we know, one of the organizers, one of the leaders behind that hijacking and the 9/11 attacks was from Egypt. He didn't include Turkey, a country where there was a recent terrorist attack, a country that has issues with terrorism, but he did not include them. He did not include the United Arab Emirates. He did not include Indonesia. And I read several articles that point out some things, and I'm going to go into that in a second. But if he was really serious, if he was focused on fighting terrorism, there is no explanation why he would not include those countries as well, if that was his true motivation. But that is not his motivation. This is all about politics, about appearances. It's about feeding the people who support him, giving them what they want. And also, the reason why he really did not include those other countries is because he has business ties to those countries. And there are several articles that point this out. I will include all of the sources that I rely upon for this video in the description box so that you can read it for yourself. For instance, in Turkey, he has towers that are named after him where he's licensed them to use his name for those towers. And he has earned $6 million in deals. $6 million in deals in Turkey. He has projects in Indonesia and Dubai where he's developing properties. He has formed companies in Egypt and Saudi Arabia. His daughter, Ivanka, is looking into multiple business opportunities in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, in Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. So this man claims that he's about fighting terrorism, but yet he conveniently avoids including those other countries in his ban because he has business ties with them, countries that are known for their ties to terrorism. So that's the first thing that I wanted to point out. And I've already explained, why I oppose this ban on Muslims. I just think that it's not productive. It's not going to fight the war on terrorism. And I think that it amounts to collective punishment of an entire religious group based on the crimes of a few members within those groups. And I just think that that's wrong. I think that that undermines the war on terror because in order to fight a war on terror, you need to have Muslim allies in that fight so that you can gather intelligence, so that you can distinguish and point out and target the actual terrorists who pose a threat. So that's part of the reason why, I oppose that ban on Muslims entering this country. And I just wanted to take time out to talk about a recent decision in the federal courts that stopped this ban. It temporarily stops this ban. And this is very important because it establishes the fact that this country is not a dictatorship. I mean, Donald Trump is operating as if he's a king or as if he's one of these characters from Game of Thrones and he's all powerful and he can do whatever he wants. But in this country, we have checks and balances. We have three branches of government, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial branch of government. And thankfully, the federal court in New York stopped this man from implementing this discriminatory and unconstitutional ban on Muslims entering this country. I will include a link to that article as well. The ACLU had filed a lawsuit claiming that this ban on Muslims violates the Fifth Amendment due process clause and that it violates the Fifth Amendment equal protection clause and other claims as well. And the court, for now, has imposed an injunction preventing the government from implementing this ban. And this injunction is temporary. There's supposed to be further court hearings to determine whether or not this is, in fact, a violation of the Constitution. So for now, the court has determined that there's a strong likelihood of success, and that's why they imposed this injunction. And they also found that there's a substantial risk of irreparable harm being done to the people who are affected by this ridiculous and discriminatory ban, because many of these people are fleeing countries of tyranny, countries of violence. They're fleeing war-torn areas. They're seeking asylum. And to send many of those people back puts their very lives in jeopardy. So I'm glad that the court has taken a stand. I'm glad that they ruled in such a way to temporarily ban this or to temporarily halt and stop this ban on Muslims. I'm glad that they've reached that decision. But this is not a solution because many people are being detained now. They're not being forced to go back to their countries, but they're being detained. And, that's something that anybody who's concerned about liberty and freedom should be concerned about. So another thing that I want to point out is this. I want to commend those American citizens who held demonstrations at the airports against this ban on Muslims. I mean, I support those people who have demonstrated. They haven't just talked about the issues like I'm doing right now. They actually got out there and put their bodies in the streets and in the airports to voice their opposition to this tyranny, to this fascism, to this major step backwards. So I commend those people that braved the weather, took their time and their energy and invested into something that is worthy, something that all concerned citizens should be involved in. All people of conscience should be involved in. Now is not the time for narrow-mindedness. Now is not the time for bigotry. Now is the time to unite with others in a fight against a fascist in the White House, against fascist policies. Now, in my earlier video about this subject, I mentioned a poem, and I was just freestyling. I didn't have the exact poem in front of me, but now I do, so I want to read it. And this is a poem from Pastor Martin Niemöller. I hope I'm not mispronouncing his name, but I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments section. But this is his poem, and his poem is called First They Came. And here it goes. First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. So basically that point makes a basic point. It makes a point about how we should be concerned about our fellow human beings, even if they don't belong to our particular group. Because eventually, An oppressor will eventually get to your group. They will eventually oppress your group if you don't take a stand right now, right here and right now, against stuff that is wrong, that's fundamentally wrong. And Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said it best when he said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And that about sums it up. And that's why this issue of this ban is important to all people, because today they're banning Muslims. And this is only the beginning of the process if this man is allowed to continue forward. Thank goodness we have a checks and balances system, but it's only the beginning. First is the Muslims, then it's the Mexican immigrants, and then it's black people. It's black people when Trump sends those troops to your black neighborhood in the name of law and order. It's black people when Trump imposes racial profiling and supports racial profiling in your neighborhood. It's black people. It's black people when Trump's Justice Department does not investigate incidents of police brutality in your city. So those are my thoughts. Tell me what you think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.